Can you imagine the sparkle in a child's eyes, brimming with hope as she waits for her moment to shine? My daughter, Maya, sat perched on the edge of the couch, her little legs swinging with anticipation. All around her, her cousins were tearing into their Christmas gifts, their shouts of joy filling the air. One cousin proudly waved a glittery pink tablet. Oh, the excitement on her face! Another was practically bouncing off the walls, clutching a remote-controlled drone that zoomed in his imagination. The room was alive, buzzing with laughter and the rustle of wrapping paper. And there was Maya, watching it all unfold, patiently waiting for her turn. Her smile was so pure, so trusting, because in her innocent world, grandmas shower their grandkids with love, and presents always come wrapped in pretty bows with your name written in sparkly ink. I kept scanning the room, my eyes darting to every tag, every bag, every corner under the twinkling tree. Her gift had to be there, right? It just had to be. But then, the unimaginable happened. The last gift was handed out, and Maya's hands remained empty. Her hopeful eyes met mine, and in a whisper that broke my heart, she asked, "Did Grandma forget me?" Oh, how that question pierced me. I turned to Margot, my mother-in-law, forcing a gentle tone despite the panic rising in my chest. Was there another one? Maybe it got missed? I prayed she'd nod and pull out a hidden package. But Margot didn't hesitate. Her words cut through the festive cheer like a knife. "She's not really family," she declared, her voice as sharp and cold as a winter wind. No apology, no hint of shame, just a blunt statement, as if she were commenting on the weather. "She's adopted. It's not the same. Can you believe that?" Maya heard every single word. My sweet girl didn't cry. Not right away. She just nodded, as if those cruel words somehow made sense in her young mind. Then she looked down, folding her tiny hands in her lap, trying to make herself smaller, as if she could disappear from the pain. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I wanted to shield her, to scream, to do something, anything to erase the hurt in her eyes. But I was frozen, paralyzed by shock. And the worst part? Nobody else spoke up either. The cousins exchanged awkward glances, their new toys suddenly less exciting. My sister-in-law busied herself with a stray piece of wrapping paper, avoiding eye contact. Caleb, my husband, sat beside me, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack, his eyes burning holes into his mother. But even he stayed silent in that moment. We stayed for dinner, going through the motions like robots, pretending everything was fine. Maya never mentioned it again, but how could she forget? That night, in the quiet of the guest room, Caleb's resolve broke through the silence. He opened his suitcase drawer and pulled out a manila folder, his expression heavy with purpose. "I brought this in case she did something like this," he said, his voice low but firm. I was hoping I wouldn't need it. Can you imagine the weight of that moment? He left the house alone, just after midnight, clutching that folder like a weapon. I didn't ask what was inside. I didn't need to. Whatever he said to Margot, whatever truth lay in those papers, it changed everything. The next morning, she wasn't laughing, and she never dared call Maya not family again. This all unfolded last Christmas, a time meant for joy and togetherness. It was supposed to be one of those picture-perfect family gatherings, fireplace crackling with warmth, everyone in matching plaid pajamas, the scent of spiced cider wafting from the stove, and kids racing through the house like it was their personal playground. Margot, my mother-in-law, is the queen of these events. She's got this Pinterest-worthy holiday style. Think cloth napkins folded into perfect little trees, and tiny chalkboard signs labeling each cheese on her fancy platter. Everything is curated, polished, like a magazine spread come to life. But Margot's also the kind of woman who's rigid about how things should be, and that rigidity casts a shadow over her warmth. I've been married to her son, Caleb, for a decade now. We met in college, and from the very first moment, he was this calm, thoughtful, quietly intense man who stole my heart. He's never the loudest voice in the room, but oh, he's the one who listens the closest. He notices what you need before you even realize it yourself. Falling in love with him meant falling in love with the dream of building a family grounded in real, unshakable love. But that dream wasn't easy to achieve. We fought for years to have children, 4 heartbreaking miscarriages, 2 grueling failed IVF cycles, countless nights holding each other in the dark, too broken to speak, because words couldn't heal the pain. Eventually, we turned to adoption, not as a fallback, but as the most beautiful decision we ever made. We found Maya through a local agency when she was 5 years old. I'll never forget the first time she held my hand. We were walking through a park, and, without a word, she slipped her tiny fingers into mine. My heart stopped. This was it. This was my daughter. Maya is a burst of light in every room she enters. She's obsessed with painting, especially animals, and she's given names to every squirrel that scurries through our backyard. Her giggles at her own silly jokes, even when no one else gets them, are pure magic. She's gentle, kind, and so deeply thoughtful it sometimes aches to witness. From the moment she came home, Caleb was her dad, not stepdad, not foster dad, but dad with every fiber of his being. One night, as I brushed her hair, she called me Mom for the first time. I didn't correct her, I just cried, overwhelmed with love. We've always treated her as our own, but not everyone in our family followed our lead. Margot was polite when we introduced Maya, but it was a cold politeness, like she was greeting a stranger. She never said anything outright cruel at first, but she never truly saw Maya either. She didn't bother to learn her favorite colors or ask about her dreams. She didn't pour the same warmth into Maya as she did with our nieces and nephews. I kept telling myself she'd come around. Didn't she just need a little time? Caleb, though, was wary. He knew his mother's heart better than I did, and didn't hold out much hope. Still, for Maya's sake, he gave her the benefit of the doubt. So when Margot invited the whole family to her North Carolina home for Christmas, we said yes. We packed the car with presents, snacks, and so much hope, then drove 6 long hours. Maya was practically vibrating with excitement. She'd made handmade cards for every cousin, her little fingers carefully coloring each one. She couldn't stop talking about the massive tree Margot always set up in the foyer, and she'd packed her favorite dress, a sparkly blue one, because she wanted to look grown up. Watching her in the back seat, singing along to Christmas carols, clutching her teddy bear, I felt my heart swell. This year will be different, I thought. This year, she'll feel like she truly belongs. The house was a whirlwind of noise and warmth. When we arrived, siblings, cousins, pets, all tumbling over each other in holiday chaos. Maya dove right in, as if she'd always been part of it. I saw her throw her arms around Margot in a big hug, and my heart lifted. But Margot's response? A pat on the head, like Maya was just some neighbor's kid. It wasn't mean, but it was distant, and it stung. Still, I pushed the feeling down and smiled, clinging to hope. Maybe it was just awkwardness. Maybe love takes time to bloom for some people, right? I helped with dinner, chopping vegetables and stirring pots. Caleb roughhoused with the kids, his laughter echoing through the house. Maya passed out reindeer-shaped cookies with a grin, proud of her role. Everything looked so right, so close to perfect, until the next morning, until the gifts. Oh, how that moment shattered me. After breakfast, The kids gathered in a circle, buzzing with anticipation because gift time at Margot's was the event. She turned it into a spectacle, stacking presents under her 12-foot tree, each wrapped in color-coded paper, and handing them out one by one as everyone watched. Maya was practically bouncing, her eyes glued to the tree. "I think mine's the purple one with the snowman," she whispered to me, her voice bubbling with excitement. I nodded, forcing a smile. Even though I hadn't seen her name on a single tag, my stomach twisted, but I ignored it. Maybe her gift was tucked behind the tree? Maybe Margot was saving it for a grand finale? The gifts flew open, squeals, giggles, kids holding up shiny toys, gadgets, glittery jackets. Maya clapped for each cousin, her joy for them so genuine it made my heart ache. But the pile under the tree dwindled. 5 kids, 10 gifts, then 3 kids, 2 gifts, then 1. None had Maya's name. She noticed, her excitement fading into confusion. In a soft, hesitant voice, she asked, "Did Grandma forget mine?" My heart sank. I pretended to search, my eyes scanning the empty space under the tree. "Maybe it's still under there," I said, my voice shaky. Desperate, the first stood and faced Margot directly. "Hey, is there one for Maya that didn't make it out here?" I asked, hoping for a simple mistake. But Margot's face didn't soften. She looked annoyed, as if I'd broken some sacred rule by asking. Then, staring right at Maya, she said, "She's not really family." The room went silent, not a shocked silence, but a complicit one, heavy with cowardice. A cousin fiddled with a ribbon, avoiding everyone's gaze. My sister-in-law cleared her throat, busying herself with crumpled wrapping paper. No one met my eyes. No one looked at Maya. My daughter's face didn't crumble, but oh, the way she blinked slowly, like she was trying to solve a puzzle no child should face. Then, that tiny nod, so small, yet so devastating, as if she accepted she didn't belong. I knelt beside her, my hands trembling, my voice barely steady. "You did nothing wrong," I whispered, desperate for her to believe it. She nodded again, forcing a smile. "It's okay, Mommy. Maybe next year." How did I not shatter right there? Caleb sat like a statue, his jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with barely contained fury. I waited for anyone to speak up, to call out Margot's cruelty, to say, "Maya is family." But the room stayed silent, and I was furious not just at Margot, but at every adult who chose comfort over courage. I wanted to scream, to scoop Maya up and storm out, but I didn't. I stayed seated, paralyzed, weighing the cost of an outburst against my daughter's dignity. In that silence, I felt like I'd failed her. Later, as the kids played and the adults returned to their coffee and phones, Maya retreated to a corner, curling up with her teddy bear, her shoulders tense, her eyes on the floor. She didn't speak, didn't ask for a gift, didn't ask why. She just kept that brave little smile plastered on, pretending to be fine, but I wasn't fine, far from it. That moment ignited a cold, unshakable fury in me. Little did I know, Caleb had already decided to act. That night, the house was eerily quiet. After the dishes were done, the wine poured, and the awkward goodnights exchanged, we retreated to the guest room. Maya was already in her pajamas, curled up with her stuffed fox, staring at the ceiling. No bedtime story, no Santa talk, just silence. I sat beside her, rubbing her back until her breathing slowed. "Mom," she whispered, her voice so small. "Yeah, baby. Do you think maybe she didn't know I was coming?" My throat tightened. "No, sweetheart. She knew." A pause. "Oh! Maybe she just doesn't know me yet." I bit my lip until it bled, fighting back tears. "That might be it," I managed. "But none of this is your fault, okay?" She nodded. burying her face in the pillow. When I stood, Caleb was in the doorway, holding a manila folder, his eyes fierce yet steady. "I'm done," he said quietly. "I've let my mom say too much over the years. Let it slide, because it was easier. But not this. Not with Maya." I'd never seen him so resolute. "What's that?" I asked, my voice trembling. He handed me the folder. Inside were notarized documents, an updated will, trust designations, and Maya's adoption record. "She's not just our daughter by heart," he said. "She's our daughter in every legal way. I added her to everything: the house, savings, insurance, the family trust, everything." The first stared, stunned. "You did all this?" "Months ago," he said. "I wanted it official. I just didn't tell anyone, in case my mom crossed a line." My knees buckled. "So what now?" He glanced at the clock. "Midnight." Grabbing his coat, he said, "I'm going to show her exactly who Maya is." I didn't stop him. I just nodded, listening as the front door creaked shut behind him. I can only imagine Margot's face when Caleb showed up unannounced. He didn't yell or argue. He sat at her kitchen table, his childhood home, and said, "I'm not here to shout or beg for an apology. I'm here to give you a choice." He slid the folder across the table. As she read, he spoke of Maya's joy for her cousins, her hugs, her calling Margot grandma, and how she went to bed wondering what she'd done wrong. "This is Maya's name in every legal place that matters," he said. "If you keep pretending she's not family, that's your choice. But then, I'm not your son anymore. I won't raise my daughter in a family that treats her like a guest." When she tried to interrupt, he stopped her. "You've got one shot to fix this, because next Christmas will be somewhere else." Then he walked out, leaving her with the truth. "Back in our room," he said little, just took my hand as we lay in the dark. I didn't sleep, staring at the ceiling like Maya had, replaying every moment I'd stayed silent for the sake of peace. But something shifted that night for both of us. We vowed never to let cruelty hide behind silence again. We were parents who'd fight for our daughter, no matter what. The next morning, the house felt different, tense, like everyone was tiptoeing around the truth. Maya sat at the kitchen table, stirring hot chocolate Caleb made her, humming softly. Her eyes were brighter, but still weary. I was about to suggest a walk when Margot knocked on our door. She looked undone. No poised smile, no polished perfection, just a quieter, smaller version of herself. "Can I come in?" she asked. Caleb stayed silent. I nodded. She stepped in, holding a silver-wrapped box, no ribbon. Kneeling beside Maya, she placed it before her. "I forgot this yesterday," she said softly. Maya hesitated, glancing at me. Margot cleared her throat. "I made a mistake. Maya, I'm sorry. I was wrong." She spoke directly to Maya, her voice tired but sincere. "I thought family was just blood, but I forgot it's love. And you've loved me more than I deserve." Maya looked to me, uncertain. I nodded, and she carefully unwrapped the gift: a set of professional watercolor paints, a fresh sketchbook, and a card. She read it silently, her lips moving. Then she looked at Margot. "You want me to draw you something?" Margot's eyes welled up. "I'd like that very much." Maya nodded. "Okay. No big hugs, no movie moment tears, just a simple okay. But oh, it meant the world." After Margot left, I turned to Caleb. No smugness. No, "I told you so." Just a long exhale as he sat beside me. "Will it last?" I asked. He shrugged. "It's a start." That night, Maya drew in her sketchbook a little girl holding hands with a man and woman, a house and tree behind them, a smiling sun above. She titled it Home and showed it to Caleb, who kissed her forehead. "That's exactly what we are," he said. Days later, back home, An envelope arrived in Margot's handwriting. Inside was a photo of Caleb at 5, holding her hand. On the back, she wrote, "Family is who you fight for. Thank you for fighting for her. I don't expect miracles." Margot's proud, stubborn, shaped by a rigid view of family, but Caleb's quiet strength drew a line she couldn't cross without losing us. He didn't yell or shame her. He just held the truth and let her choose. She chose Maya, and that lifted a weight I didn't know I carried. That Christmas wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was enough a paintbrush in Maya's hand, a grandma learning to love. On the drive home, we were quiet, not from tension but from peace, the kind that follows a storm. Maya slept in the back, her sketchbook open to our family, now with a silver-haired woman just close enough to belong. Back home, life resumed: school, work, Maya painting animals and girls like her. One day, she drew a fox with a teacup. "That's Grandma," she said, smiling. "She's learning." And that's what stays with me: Maya's grace, offering love a second chance, despite the hurt. Kids forgive in ways we can't fathom. I still think of that moment in Margot's living room, the silence that betrayed Maya, the peace I prioritized over truth. But I learned that peace without honesty is just pretense, and it cost Maya her sense of belonging, even briefly. Never again. Now, Margot calls, asks about Maya's art, sends cards, awkward but real. Her last one read, "Your world makes mine bigger." It's enough, not because the past is gone, but because we're honest now. Family isn't blood or marriage, it's who shows up, who says, "You belong," no exceptions. Caleb didn't raise his voice, he raised his daughter, teaching me that love is action, that silence can wound as deeply as words. Maya taught me grace, choosing to heal not for others, but for herself. That Christmas, something broke, and something stronger began. The year Maya learned love means being chosen, again and again, when it matters most. How could this happen? The silence that followed Margot's cruel words wasn't just awkward, it was complicit, heavy with the weight of unspoken betrayal. One cousin fidgeted with a stray ribbon, avoiding everyone's gaze. My sister-in-law cleared her throat, diving into the task of gathering torn wrapping paper, as if it were her lifeline. No one dared look at me. No one dared look at Maya, my precious daughter, sitting there with empty hands and a heart full of questions. I gazed down at her, bracing for tears, but her face didn't crumble. Instead, she blinked slowly, like she was piecing together a puzzle no child should ever have to solve. And then, oh, my heart, that quiet, almost invisible nod, as if she'd accepted a truth far too heavy for her young soul. How could she understand something so unfair? I dropped to my knees beside her, my hands trembling like leaves in a storm. But I fought to keep my voice steady. "You did nothing wrong, sweetheart," I whispered, pouring every ounce of love into those words. She nodded again, forcing a smile that broke me. "It's okay, Mommy. Maybe next year," she said, her voice so small yet so brave. How did I not shatter right there and then? Caleb sat beside me, stone still, his jaw clenched so tight it seemed it might snap, his eyes burning with a fury I'd never seen. He looked like he'd explode if he so much as twitched. I kept waiting, hoping, begging for someone to speak up. Wouldn't someone say, "Margot, that's cruel," or "Maya is family," or even just, "That's not okay"? But the room stayed silent, and that silence cut deeper than any words could. I was furious. Oh, how I burned with anger. Not just at Margot, but at every adult in that room who chose comfort over courage, who let my daughter's heart break without a single protest. I wanted to scream until my voice gave out. I wanted to scoop Maya up and storm out of that house, away from the pain. But I didn't. I stayed seated, paralyzed by the moment, my mind racing. What would it do to Maya if I lost control? What would it mean for Caleb if I confronted his mother in front of everyone? So I stayed silent, and in that silence, I felt like I'd betrayed my own daughter. How could I have let her down like that? Later, as the room moved on, the kids distracted by their shiny new toys and the adults retreating to their coffee mugs and phone screens, I watched Maya slip away. She curled up in a corner, clutching her teddy bear, her shoulders tense, her eyes glued to the floor. She didn't speak for the rest of the morning, not a word. She didn't ask for a gift or demand answers. She just kept that fake little smile plastered on her face, making sure she looked fine whenever someone glanced her way. But I wasn't fine, not even close. That moment seared itself into me. A cold, unrelenting fury I couldn't shake. Little did I know, Caleb had already made up his mind to fight back. That night, the house was too quiet, the kind of stillness that feels like the calm before a storm. After the last dish was washed, the wine poured, and the polite goodnights exchanged with awkward hugs, we retreated to the guest room and closed the door. Maya was already in her pajamas, curled up in bed with her stuffed fox, the one she carried everywhere. No bedtime story, no chatter about Santa, just silence. As she stared at the ceiling, lost in her thoughts, I sat beside her, rubbing her back gently, willing her to feel my love, until her breathing slowed. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yeah, baby." I leaned closer, hanging on her words. Do you think maybe she didn't know I was coming? Oh, how that question crushed me. I swallowed hard, fighting the lump in my throat. No, sweetheart, she knew. A long pause. "Oh, maybe she just doesn't know me yet," she said, her voice so hopeful despite everything. I bit my lip until I tasted blood, holding back tears. "That might be it," I managed, my voice cracking. "But none of this is your fault, okay? Do you hear me?" She nodded and buried her face in her pillow, hiding from the world. When I stood, Caleb was in the doorway, clutching something in his hand, his eyes locked on our daughter with a fierce, quiet intensity. He didn't speak at first, just looked at Maya, then at me, then down at the envelope he held. "I'm done," he said, his voice low but resolute. "I've let my mom say too much over the years. Let it slide, because it was easier. But not this, not with Maya." I stood frozen, my breath catching. I'd never seen him like this, steady, final, like a man who'd drawn a line in the sand. "What's that?" I asked, my voice trembling with anticipation. He handed me a manila folder, and inside, oh my goodness, a notarized legal document, an updated will, trust designations, and the formal record of Maya's adoption. "She's not just our daughter by heart," he said, his voice thick with conviction. "She's our daughter on every legal document. I added her to everything: the house, the savings, the insurance, the family trust, everything. She's my daughter in every way the law recognizes." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "You did all this?" I whispered, stunned. "Months ago," he said. "I wanted it official in every possible way. I didn't tell anyone, but I knew if my mom ever crossed a line, I'd be ready." My knees felt weak. Can you imagine the foresight, the love in that act? "So what are you going to do with it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He glanced at the clock. Midnight. Grabbing his coat, he said, "I'm going to show her exactly who Maya is." I didn't try to stop him. I didn't urge him to calm down. I just nodded, my heart racing, and sat on the bed, listening to the front door creak open and then close behind him. What would Margot think when he showed up in the dead of night? I can only imagine her shock. Caleb didn't storm in yelling or demanding apologies. He walked into her house, his childhood home, and sat across from her at the kitchen table. "I'm not here to yell," he told her, his voice calm but unyielding. "I'm not even here to ask for an apology. I'm here to give you a choice." He slid the folder across the table, and as she opened it, he watched her face. Can you picture the moment her eyes scanned those documents? He spoke of Maya's joy, how she clapped for her cousins, how she hugged Margot and called her grandma, how she went to bed wondering what she'd done wrong. "This is Maya's name in every legal place that matters," he said. "If you keep pretending she's not family, that's your choice. But if that's your choice, I'm not your son anymore. I won't raise my daughter in a family that treats her like a guest." When she tried to interrupt, he held firm, unwavering. "You've got one shot to fix this, because next Christmas will be somewhere else." Then he stood and left, leaving her to wrestle with the truth. What a moment that must have been. Back in our room, Caleb said little, just lay beside me and took my hand, his touch grounding me in the dark. I didn't sleep, staring at the ceiling just like Maya had, haunted by every time I'd chosen peace over my child's heart. But something shifted that night. Oh, how it changed us. We vowed never to let silence shield cruelty again. For the first time in so long, I felt we were truly aligned, not just as husband and wife, but as parents who'd fight for our daughter no matter what. The next morning, the house felt different, tense. Like everyone was pretending nothing had happened while knowing everything had. Maya sat at the kitchen table, stirring a cup of hot chocolate Caleb had made her, humming softly to herself. Her eyes were brighter than the night before, but still carried a quiet weariness. I was about to suggest a walk when a knock came at the guest room door. It was Margot. But oh, she wasn't herself. Gone was the poised smile, the polished perfection. She looked smaller, quieter, almost fragile. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice tentative. Caleb stayed silent, his gaze steady. I nodded, my heart in my throat. She stepped in, holding a wrapped box medium-sized, silver paper, no ribbon, and walked to Maya, kneeling beside her chair. "I forgot this yesterday," she said softly, placing it before her. Maya looked at her, then at the box, her hands still, unsure what would happen next. Oh, can you feel the shift in the air when someone finally owns up to their mistakes? Margot stood there, her usual polished facade crumbling, her voice low and weary as she cleared her throat. "I made a mistake," she said, and those words felt like a crack in a dam, ready to burst. "And I'm sorry. I was wrong." She didn't glance at me or Caleb, no. She looked right at Maya, her eyes carrying a weight of regret I'd never seen before. "I let something in my head convince me that family is just blood, but I forgot that family is love. Maya, and you've loved me from the very start, more than I could ever deserve." My heart was pounding, caught between hope and disbelief. Maya looked at me, her big eyes searching for permission. Unsure if she could trust this moment, I gave her a gentle nod, my throat tight with emotion. Her small hands moved slowly, carefully unwrapping the silver gift box Margot had set before her. Inside was a treasure, a set of professional-grade watercolor paints. Not some childish knockoff, but the kind artists dream of. There was a fresh sketchbook, its pages crisp and waiting, and on top, a simple card, its edges soft from being held. Maya opened the card, her lips moving silently as she read the words written just for her. I couldn't hear them, but oh, the way her face softened told me everything. She looked up at Margot, her voice so quiet, yet so powerful. "You want me to draw you something? Can you imagine the courage it took to ask that?" Margot's eyes brimmed with tears, sparkling in the dim light of the guest room. "I'd like that very much," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Maya nodded, steady and sure. Okay. No wide grin, no tearful embrace like you'd see in a movie, just a simple, heartfelt okay. But that okay, it was everything. It was a quiet promise, a bridge built from hurt to healing, a moment that held the weight of 1,000 unspoken hopes. When Margot left the room, I turned to Caleb, my heart still racing from the intensity of it all. He wasn't smug, didn't toss out an "I told you so." He just let out a long, heavy breath, like he'd been carrying the world on his shoulders, and sat down beside me. "You think this'll stick?" I asked, my voice shaky with both doubt and longing. He shrugged, his gaze lingering on the spot where Maya had been. "I don't know, but it's a start, right?" And in that moment, I felt the quiet strength that makes Caleb who he is, the kind of strength that doesn't need to roar to be felt. That night, as the house settled into a hushed stillness, Maya curled up with her new sketchbook, her pencil dancing across the page, with a purpose that made my heart ache. When she showed us her creation, I nearly gasped. A little girl holding hands with two taller figures, a man and a woman, standing proud in front of a cozy house with a sturdy oak tree above them. A sun beamed down, its smiling face radiating warmth across the scene. She titled it Home in her careful looping handwriting. Can you picture the love poured into every line? She showed it to Caleb, and he kissed her forehead, his voice soft but unwavering. "That's exactly what we are, sweetheart." I swear, my heart felt like it might burst, overflowing with a love so fierce it could light up the darkest night. A few days later, after we'd made the long drive back home and unpacked our bags, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, just Margot's elegant, deliberate handwriting on the front. Inside was a photograph, faded and worn, capturing a 5-year-old Caleb clutching his mother's hand, both of them smiling under a bright summer sky. On the back, in her precise script, she'd written, "Family is who you fight for." I see that now. Thank you for fighting for her. Oh, how those words sank into me. I didn't expect a miracle, and I still don't. Margot is who she is, proud, stubborn, molded by a narrow view of family that left little room for flexibility. But Caleb, my steady, quiet husband, drew a line she couldn't cross without losing something precious. He didn't shout or threaten or humiliate her. He simply laid the truth at her feet and let her choose who she wanted to be. And she chose Maya. Can you feel the power of that decision? That choice changed everything for us. When someone finally sees your child, the way you do, not as someone to merely tolerate, but as a gift to cherish, it's like a heavy fog lifts, revealing a lightness you didn't know you'd been missing. That Christmas didn't end with grand gestures or a cinematic swell of music. It ended with a paintbrush in my daughter's hand and a grandmother taking her first tentative steps toward truly becoming one. And that was more than enough. The drive home was wrapped in a quiet that wasn't heavy with tension, but soft with peace. The kind that settles in after a storm has passed, leaving you stronger, changed. Maya fell asleep in the back seat, her sketchbook cradled against her chest, her face serene in the glow of passing headlights. At one point, I glanced back and saw that drawing again, our family, hand in hand, with a new figure added, a woman with silver hair, standing just close enough to be part of the scene, but not yet at its heart. I didn't ask who it was. My heart knew, and that was enough. Back home, life slipped back into its familiar groove. School started up again, Maya skipping off to class with her backpack bouncing. Caleb returned to work, his calm presence anchoring us, as always. And Maya? She painted every afternoon at the kitchen table, her small hands filling page after page with vibrant animals, sprawling trees, and little girls who mirrored her own bright spirit. One day, she showed me a new drawing of Fox sitting at a kitchen table, a delicate teacup before it, wisps of steam curling upward. "Who's that?" I asked, though I suspected the answer. She smiled, her eyes twinkling with wisdom beyond her years. "That's Grandma. She's learning." Oh, how that simple phrase warmed me. It wasn't just a drawing, it was a testament to Maya's heart, to her ability to hold space for hope even after pain. And that's what stays with me most. Not that Margot became a new person overnight, or that our family turned into a perfect storybook ending, but that Maya, my extraordinary daughter, gave her grandmother room to grow. Even after being pushed away, after feeling invisible, she opened her heart just a crack. Letting love try again. How do children find such grace? Their forgiveness is a mystery, a light that shines through even the heaviest shadows, teaching us lessons we're too stubborn to learn on our own. I still think back to that moment in Margot's living room, the sting of her words, the suffocating silence that followed, the guilt of not standing up when my daughter needed me most. How many times had I convinced myself that keeping the peace was worth more than facing the truth? But that day taught me something I'll carry forever. Peace without truth is just a lie. And that lie cost Maya something she should never have lost. Even for a second, her sense of belonging, her trust that she was valued by the people she called family. I'll never let that happen again. Never. Things have changed since then. Slowly, sometimes messily, but undeniably. Margot calls more often now, her voice warm as she asks about Maya's latest artwork or her favorite animals at the zoo. She sends little cards in the mail, handwritten notes that are sometimes clumsy but always sincere. The last one read, "I'm proud of the way you see the world. Maya, you've made mine bigger." Can you feel the heart in those words? It's enough for now, not because the past is gone, but because we're finally honest about it. When Margot visits, she doesn't just bring gifts wrapped in glossy paper, she brings effort. And that means more than any sparkly bow ever could. I used to think family was about who raised you, who shared your blood, or who you married into. But now, I know the truth. Family is who shows up when life gets tough, who looks at you with their whole soul and says, "You belong to me," no strings attached. Sometimes it takes a quiet, unshakable stand to make people see what's been there all along. My husband didn't raise his voice, he raised his daughter. He taught me that love is action, that silence can cut as deeply as cruelty, and that speaking up doesn't always mean shouting. It means standing firm, holding the truth steady, and letting it speak for itself. And Maya? Oh, my beautiful Maya. She showed me that even after someone hurts you, you can choose grace not for them, but for yourself, because belonging shouldn't be something you have to prove. It should be a warmth that surrounds you, unshakable and true. And now, Maya feels it not just from us, her parents, but even, finally, from her grandmother. So when people ask how our Christmas went that year, I tell them it was the year something broke and something better took root. It was the year my daughter learned that love isn't about being chosen. Once it's about being chosen again and again, especially when it counts. Thank you for hearing our story. If it touched something in you, maybe a memory of your own struggles or a hurt you're still mending, know this: you're not alone. Families are complicated, but your worth is not. You don't have to earn your place at the table ever. And if you're raising a child, whether they're biological, adopted, fostered, or anything else, don't let anyone make them feel less than. Speak up. Draw the line. Love louder than the pain. If this story moved you, please take a second to like this video. It helps others find it. And I'd love to read your thoughts, your stories, in the comments below. I cherish every single one. If you're new here or hungry for more real, raw, honest stories like this, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss what's next. Thank you for being here, for seeing Maya, for choosing kindness. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people you call family because they're worth every fight, aren't they?